Hello and welcome to the Keeper's Corner podcast with your hosts Matt Sterling and Brandon and Michelle Brooks. We are breaking down anything and everything Utica City. Let's go. Hello everyone, welcome to episode 10 of the Keeper's Corners podcast. One game this week on the books for Utica. They were out in Rochester on Friday night. Handled the Lancers pretty easily with a 9-1. Good showing for the fans there. I know the section we sat in was all Utica. I saw some on the other side of the field. There was a bunch up above us.
Yeah, we definitely had quite a few Utica fans coming out. So it was very good to see. You know, definitely nice seeing all the faces coming out from Utica. You know, making the drive down the thruway out to the game to support the team. So, it was really cool to see, and, got to, of course, meet a couple. One in particular, our contest winner there that got the hat. Was able to chat with him for a few minutes, and it was definitely a lot of fun. Their crowd out there was not as lively as Utica, but unfortunately, they did not have a good night.
Yeah, but, when you're getting beaten by 8 goals one night and then 9 the next, it's going to take the fans out of it a bit. They are a young team. They are all local. There's a lot of growth for Doug Miller to get them through.
Well, I mean, they just transition leagues too. I mean, they're going from MASL 2 to MASL 1, I guess. So I mean, just changing that. You're changing who you're playing against. You're changing the I don't want to say the quality, but you're upping your game. And if you don't bring up your game to match that, you're gonna get trampled. And we kind of saw that both in the Utica game and the Harrisburg game this past weekend. Well, this weekend, I guess.
We had 4 goals there for Moises Gonzalez and an assist. Christian Segura with 2 H's, now that everyone can spell his name correctly. Had another goal, 2 assists on the night. 2 goals for Momo, a goal for Dieguez, a goal for Yelovac. It was raining goals, and the smaller field helps. The inexperience helps, and on paper, it was a lot more one-sided than some of those stretches of the game would have you believe.
Yeah, it was unfortunately, I mean, really the only goal that they had all night was, 30 seconds left in the first quarter. And beyond that, they just weren't able to really do anything with it past then. Not to say that, that wasn't in part due to Utica's defense, because, we had a pretty good defense. And, of course, behind the defense was Coughlin all night. Not Perella, as the MASL had it for a little while. I mean, Coughlin, you're looking at, they only had 13 shots on him. And out of those 13, he saved 12. Obviously, the one goal that they got in the first quarter. So, I mean, he was on point last night with some fantastic saves. But even not just him, we definitely had, again, we had the defense working hard Friday night as well. I keep saying last night. So they definitely, I mean, we were working hard in that back line. Unfortunately, the same couldn't have been said for Rochester. I mean, Esposito in goal, of course, Utica's old backup, ended up having 28 shots against him, which I don't remember seeing that in one of the recent games that we've watched, or even in some of the games that we watched last year. I mean, that's a lot of
yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. If you're facing 30 shots a night, even if you're saving 70% of them, which is I think last year would have put you like top 10 in the league still.
Mm-hmm.
That's still 9 goals if you're facing 30 shots.
which is, I mean, his save percentage was 68%. So I mean, just shy of 70. So I mean, he he was doing the best he could. I mean, he still had decent numbers, but I mean, with that many shots being allowed through the defense, I mean, you're asking to get scored on. And unfortunately, we got to him 9 times.
I mean, Harrisburg only got to him 12, so I mean...
Only.
Yeah, only.
Only. We started... we spoke with Coach there briefly after the game. He said the first half was a little sloppy at stretches for Utica. They tightened it up there in the second, and when they did, you could see the tempers start to flare a little bit on the Rochester side.
Yep. Yeah, it definitely was a rough game. You could see, like you said, you could see the frustration, and it kind of started to translate to fouls, and we could see a lot of shoving out there. We could see a lot of just rough and tumble soccer, and it again resulted in a couple of power plays. I don't believe Utica had a penalty kill the whole night. So I mean, Utica at least on paper kept it clean. We didn't see everything, and we're not going to say that there wasn't maybe anything that shouldn't have been called, but I didn't see anything. But it was a rough night.
The only penalty there you had was number 16, Andre Demidov. I'm going to slaughter that last name. Demidov. He's the guy that we saw shove, I think it was Diegues at midfield when the ball had been cleared by 2 seconds, and he was 3 steps away. And then that was the one that was called a common foul. And then the next time he touched someone, it was a blue card, which was more just a make-up call in my mind. But
I'm more focused on the fact that Utica seemed to break their third quarter slump against Rochester.
Yeah,
they scored 3 goals.
3 goals to 0, 7 shots to 3. Really looks like they're shaking that third quarter up, and I don't know, they found something at halftime that keeps them fired up.
I mean, they were able to do that last week as well with Baltimore. So I just want to see them keep going with that, because that's key, I think, at this point. So one thing I did notice with the Rochester-Harrisburg game was Esposito actually had the same save percentage. He ended up with 34 shots against him, so he had even more shots against him, and he saved 23 of them. So he had a 68% save percentage both nights. It doesn't look like he played the entire night. It looks like their other goalie, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to try.
Ciavaglia, but he was taken out due to injury in the first quarter.
So, I mean, Esposito definitely he's performing, but the problem is their defense. They got to pick up the defense pretty heavily. I'm actually looking right now, and I just noticed that for the most part, I can only see 2 actually designated defenders of any note on their roster right now: Tim Crawford and Anthony Rosano. So I mean, they definitely need to pick up their defense for sure if they want to start keeping the numbers down.
Actually worry about playing his defense and not trying to get up on the front line.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure that's something that Doug Miller's going to work on, and they have a week here before they go down to Harrisburg on Saturday, which I guess is probably as good a transition as any to bring us to talk about Harrisburg, who we play next Sunday at 3 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Another home game. I don't know if this was just a case of Harrisburg being a lot better than we expected, or taking advantage of coming in a day early, watching the Utica-Rochester game the night before, and then playing a team that played 24 hours earlier, had their starting keeper get injured and then had to put in the keeper that played the night before. It was, 12 goals for them last night on 44 total shots. Yeah, that's, again, you're giving up way too many shots.
I mean, I'm not gonna say much because we all know what I'm probably going to say regarding that, but I guess we'll see how Harrisburg decides to play when they finally come to Utica on the 8th, which is going to be, like you said, Matt, it's going to suck for them because they have to play at 7 o'clock on Saturday night in Harrisburg and then literally turn around, try to get some sleep, and hop on the bus and head to Utica by 3.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And, of course, barring weather, I mean, you know, just look at today. It's snowing outside. You know, it's definitely pretty messy. So, I mean, it's the time of year that 5-hour drives might not be a thing. You know, it might end up being, 6-7 hours, which if that's the case, that cuts into their practice time before the game. It cuts into, of course, their sleep after their game on Saturday night. So, I mean, that's going to be tough for them. And, I mean, Rochester, if nothing changes between, this week and next week, and they play Rochester again, and, comes up to roughly the same result, then, great. It's basically a warm-up game for Harrisburg. But, if you come out of that game pretty cocky because of, what you were able to accomplish, then you're going to hit a wall with Utica because it's going to be night and day. I mean, you figure both teams kind of...
I hate to say it, both teams are of a different caliber. Rochester's new, Rochester's young, Rochester's trying, Utica's established. Utica has veteran players. We've got Segura, we've got Bo, we've got Moy, and Momo.
Right. I caught a bit of the Kick This with Soccer Sam yesterday. He had Michael Lewis on, and they said this is a 3-year plan for Rochester. They expect a rough one this year. They don't really expect to compete until 2022, when they've had a couple years of experience.
He actually said during the game he got on with the announce team, and it was, I hate to say it, but it was kind of funny because one of the announcers said somebody didn't show up, and Soccer Sam went, "Yep, that's fine because our team sure didn't."
I
was like, "Oh, okay."
They'll readily admit that they're not doing great 2 games in, but this is, like you said, this is basically going to be a learning experience for them for this season. It's the fans. My only message to the fans of Rochester would be stick it out. It might be a rough season, but if you stick it out and support the team and support the players, then they're gonna do their damnedest to produce. And when things start picking up, you can say you were there from the beginning, or obviously not the beginning. I know that Rochester's been around for a bit, but this is their transition back to the MASL. So it's not a triumphant return, but it's definitely, it's going to be trial by fire. And, right now they're struggling, but we'll see what happens, 12 months from now.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
I was just agreeing.
Well, I mean, if you stop and think about it, I hate to bring hockey into this, but look at the Comets. When the Comets came into Utica, I hate to say it because I love the team, they sucked. When they first got back into Utica and started playing again, they weren't the greatest. But then it took some time and it turned around, and here we are.
What's hockey?
What's hockey?
I don't know what hockey is.
I don't know what hockey is. Hockey doesn't exist.
The other thing Soccer Sam said on Kick This is he said Utica is the New England Patriots of the MASL. They're a powerhouse, I don't know if I'd go the Patriots. We haven't won anything yet.
We did win. We did take the division, though.
Okay.
Not the division, the conference, whatever.
That's not the Ron Newman Cup. We didn't end the season on a win. We ended it on a loss. And there is only, a handful of teams that get to say it. They won it by winning, and Utica hasn't done that yet. Yet. We added Obasi here over this past week. Couple years out of the league, but he looked sharp there on Friday night.
He really did.
I was a little startled by how tall he was.
Oh my God, legs for days.
Long legs, long arms.
Just a
really,
big dude.
Really smooth with the ball, though.
Yes. Yeah, he was definitely he flowed with his movements, and it was very, very nice. It was very good to watch. He definitely he had some moves, so I'd be really, really interested to see essentially when he's pushed, what it would be like, what he's going to be like, further in the season. So he was very entertaining to watch.
Here's a new thing that we should probably try. Maybe we should try breaking it out this podcast. Who was everybody's favorite player from Friday night?
Player of the game?
Yeah, for each person. Like, who was yours, Matt?
For me, it got to be Moy. I mean, he was everywhere offensively. 4 goals, header. He even had an assist. It's hard to argue with that.
I'd have to give it to Coughlin. I mean, the 92% save percentage. I mean, he kept a lot of shots out of goal. And obviously, not all of that's attributed to him, but he made a lot of really good saves. So it was definitely, he was on point. He was on his game Friday for sure.
I have a tie.
Yeah.
Tagba and Segura.
Okay.
Because Segura, I mean, everyone was upset by that trade, and everyone who's a Utica fan knows what trade I'm talking about. But Segura came in, made himself at home. The dude's got fancy footwork. He's got fancy footwork. He's quick. He can make the plays when he needs to. And Tagba, I mean, we saw what he could do during the preseason game. But the problem is he had a 2-game suspension he had to play off, and I was worried he would come out a little bit rusty. Nope. The T's on D did great.
Yeah, I guess mentioning that suspension, we should point out that Utica hasn't been at full strength yet.
Nope.
The first game, they were without Zuniga, Tagba, and Diegues. Second game against Baltimore, Zuniga and Tagba again. Friday in Rochester, no Zuniga, no Callahan, as he served that red card.
Mm-hmm.
And no Goldman.
No.
Well, I think that was more due to the roster constraints, where you can only have 16.
Mm-hmm.
And then you added Obasi.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
still, that dude legs for days.
I mean, we get a point where everybody's healthy, no one's serving suspensions. Utica's a scary team.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually just noticed something looking at our roster for our game on Friday. You look at the difference in position of the two teams, and this is exactly what I was talking about. That the Utica team had half of its game roster were defenders.
Yep.
You got Schindler, Roberts, Toby, Obasi, Petrera, Tagba, Raymond, Vitali. All of those are designated as defenders. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons why we had such a low shots against Coughlin. But you look at Rochester, and, I mean, they had Locao, Rosano, and Crawford. And that's it for defenders. So they were a much more offensive-based team. They feed, based on the roster, they feed off of, being on offense, keeping the pressure on, where we basically were essentially ready for that and had a strong defense, and that can not only make defensive plays, but also, offensive plays. And, I think that's one of the reasons why we ended up capitalizing is, the fact that we had so many defenders on our roster for the game.
Well, yeah, because most of Rochester's 16-man roster was midfield.
Mm-hmm.
And they were too busy being clustered down by Coughlin the whole game, like Brandon said. They wanted to focus on offense. They need to turn around and take a look at the last 2 massacres that they had. at home and realize that maybe we should allocate more people to defense and start training more people on defense.
Mm-hmm. Which I'm sure Doug Miller's going to figure something out there. He's been around the game forever. And, it's like Mississauga last year. There's going to be growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't count any team out in this league. When you do, that's when you end up with a St. Patrick's Day massacre.
I'm never going to count out Rochester. I mean, they have potential. It's just they're not.
The moment you start, sorry, go ahead.
They're not there yet.
The moment you start counting somebody out is when they're going to go for the throat.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as long as Utica stays hungry, and you look at their schedule for next, after the calendar turns to 2020, if they're hungry and they don't overlook anyone, maybe 2 losses after the calendar changes, maybe 2 before, depending on how they go against Baltimore here in the next 5 games.
And not only that, watching the Mesquite game last night, Mesquite actually did pretty well.
Well, that helps. They stole a bunch of talent from Dallas, and
they cannibalized off of Dallas. Poor Mooj. I wanted his home opener to go good.
Well, the good thing was season opener.
Season opener, you know what I meant.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just looking at some of our upcoming games. I mean, basically you've got the next 5 are 3 against Harrisburg at home, and then a series against Baltimore, 1 away and 1 home, and that will take us through basically the 12th of January. So I mean, we're going to be seeing a lot of those 2 teams over the next month, and then we could start seeing we got the 3 games against St. Louis, another against Rochester in February.
Mesquite, Dallas.
Head down south with Mesquite and Dallas, a series against Rochester, and then the one I think I am kind of interested to see is the Sonora game. That one, we've never really watched Sonora, so I think that one's going to be interesting. Unfortunately, it doesn't sound like we might be able to understand their announcers, but it will probably be better than the Mesquite game that we watched last night, where there wasn't any. So that was a bit off-putting. There was no time on the screen. There was no scoreboard. There was no announcers. It was very difficult to kind of keep track of everything. So, I mean, if I could give any advice or any criticism, it's definitely, fix the broadcast a little bit.
If in the MASL Off the Wall group this morning, there was a post from their play-by-play. Matt Thornton is going to be the announcer guy for both Mesquite and Dallas this season. He said they had an issue with their wireless audio system, and by the time they got it hardwired, it was already the second half.
Okay. I hadn't seen that in the group yet, but that makes sense. So that's good, at least, that they're addressing it. It did definitely seem weird that there was, no commentary. So, but I don't know. It's definitely, we had a lot of good games this weekend. Then we tried to catch as much of each of them. So it was a good weekend for indoor.
Yeah, games all week. I think there's one Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So 5 of the next 7 days, there's MASL action.
Mm-hmm. 'Tis the season.
It is. Yeah. So Utica, Harrisburg, 3 o'clock Sunday, Adirondack Bank Center. You guys want to take a shot at final score?
7-3.
Boy, yours is close to mine. I was thinking 6-3 Utica.
Yeah, Utica, obviously.
I was going to say 7-4 Utica.
I mean, that's just past experience, and with the squad that we've got out there, I mean, we could be totally wrong too, because I mean, we're going off of kind of past experience with them, and it's not the same squad out there this year. It is, but it isn't. You know,
No,
we've made a lot of changes.
And Pat Healy's got a year of experience coaching now, and um, they added a couple, they lost a couple. We'll see who steps up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still putting my money on Mighty Mouse is going to have at least one goal.
Well, I think every game, almost every game, somebody's had a hat trick. I think the only one that didn't have one was the home opener, if I remember correctly. Segura had a hat trick in the first game away, I believe, and then Moy had one against Rochester. So, I mean, granted, not a huge pool, but I mean, 2 out of 3 games, one player has been able to get more than 3 goals. So, I mean, that's definitely something to watch.
Mm-hmm. And, you look at the offensive talent, the defensive talent, and when you put that up against Harrisburg's, I don't know if anyone's going to have another Thanksgiving feast there offensively, but worth it for the look from Michelle.
I think the one thing that I want to see is how we do in the third quarter again. I say that because this will be the third team that we've gone against.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, so far we've been kind of 1-1 with Baltimore, specifically for the third quarter, because that's when we ended up giving up the lead. So, I mean, Baltimore, Rochester, if we can see something with Harrisburg and, break the...
Third time's a charm.
Yeah, break the third quarter slump for the third team in a row, then that would be something to see. I'm really, really hoping that, Coach Hall and the team has figured out something for that third quarter, which so far it has seemed that way. But, I want to see it with another team. I want to see it for the rest of the season, obviously. But
yeah, I guess before we call it here, we should let's talk attendance, because last week we were talking up how great Utica is. And I noticed it last night watching the Kansas City game. If you go look at the attendance on maslsoccer.com, right now St. Louis leads with 4,680 people attending their home opener.
They've got a bigger stadium, though.
Right. Here's the kicker. They averaged 2,500 people last year.
How much did they have last night, though?
Kansas City last night had 4,200. They averaged less than 2,000. And this doesn't seem that ridiculous because, it's prompted and looked up their home opener the year previous. Kansas City had 4,200 again for their home opener.
And then it seems like they fall off after the home openers.
They didn't have more than 2,500 the rest of the year. I don't know what these teams are going to get people in the door for the home opener, but they got to find a way to keep bringing them in consistently. We saw the change last year in Utica. The first 3 games, there weren't 2,500 people. After that, it was sold out every game.
Plus side is we beat San Diego, though.
Yes.
Yeah, we got that. I mean, right now we're looking at the, 4th in the league for attendance. I mean, obviously, most everyone except for Rochester only has 1 game under their belt at home. But
I still don't believe that Rochester had 33,000.
3,200?
Yeah, I don't believe that at all. Sorry.
But, I mean, we also only saw half the field, so we didn't really look behind us.
The most behind us was Utica.
That's still attendance.
Yeah. It was mostly player parents.
Yeah. But, I mean, having 3,700, that's not even just necessarily, that's not a one-game thing.
No.
Typically we end up seeing, 3,700 or we had, I mean, how many sellouts did we have last season? And it wasn't even playoffs yet. It was still.
I think it was like 9 straight to end the year.
And they also opened up more seating.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, they were able to get 3,700, 3,800 for the playoff game, and I think last year we averaged 3,400.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, even if we have a slight drop off from the 3,700 from the home opener, I mean, again, like you said, our average was about 3,400 last season, and that's not far off. So, I mean, even if we maintain that, I would love to see it grow, obviously. But even if we ended up maintaining that, I mean, that still puts us, pretty high up there on the list of attendance. And I mean, it just shows, again, how much the area has embraced indoor, and it's just great to see.
And of course, the front office is working to make sure they keep it interesting for the fans, as there's that party in the beer garden with former WWE star Barbie Blank. Never heard of her. I don't watch WWE. Yeah, I'm sorry, Michelle, that your birthday idea was ruined because you didn't want to deal with that many people down there.
Maybe the 29th will go.
Okay. Against Baltimore.
I'll just watch your head. Whoever goes with us, watch your head, watch your beer.
Well, you got to do that anyway.
Yeah, that's accurate.
Yeah, I think that's interesting that they're bringing in,
Celebrities
like that to, I'm assuming, to boost attendance. And I mean, it's great, but that's kind of a weird person to bring in personally. So I don't know. I think it's they're trying. We'll just leave it at that. They're trying.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you guys want to add this week?
Good for me.
All right. Okay. Well, then, that is everything for us here at the Keeper's Corner podcast. Thank you for listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Keeper's Corner PD. Like us on Facebook. We're fairly active. And, come chat with us at the games. We're friendly people.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Hard to miss. There's a big flag.
Hopefully soon to be a second one, once I figure it out.
All right. So until next week, I'm Matt.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Michelle.